And this is hard for a lot of people to get.
It's
because
extremely hard.
they will say, well, I know that I know because I made the decision to go and do this, I made the decision to start this, and it worked or it didn't work.
Yes.
And the way society is built in the media and everything else and personal relationships supports that.
Right.
So it's like a whole structure there
Right.
supporting something that isn't true. And
Yes.
yet the other side of that is, as a human race, we're heading towards oblivion somehow because of that as well, because we're more and more trying to get more and more for our separate selves, and we're forgetting that actually we're also part of the planet, and the planet is only finite in its resources, and somehow we have to work together and appreciate what we have. And it's this thing that took me a long time to get this, but I understood one day that as a human being, basically one of my very fundamental programs is I want to be happy. So I try and move to what I think is going to make me happy and move away to what I think is going to be unpleasurable,
Right.
give me pain or whatever.
Right.
And that as separate selves is what we're doing, and somehow we have lost the picture completely. So I understand what you're saying, but it seems to me that there's so far, the gap is so big towards what the truth is and where we are, it's almost unbridgeable.
Well, that's certainly one perspective. I don't see it that way at all, I must tell you. What I see is that there is no gap. There is absolutely no gap. That what
Okay.
you are, as you are in this moment, is the ocean. That even the sense of separation is the ocean in movement.
Okay.
So even this sense that I have to get mine is part of what is.
So you mentioned earlier you help prepare people to move towards the edge of the cliff. How do you actually do that?
Simply by continuously pointing to what is, to the basic inseparability of what they are as the wave with the ocean.
There's a kind of reminder of something that we've all forgotten.
Precisely. And more than anything, it is a support for your own investigation. So rather than it being a teaching that you internalize, that you learn, you get the tenets of it, and then you believe it to be true, it is to facilitate your own curiosity. See, because if the curiosity wasn't there, you wouldn't be here talking about this. We wouldn't have this conversation if you didn't have this curiosity.
Yeah, but you see, what triggers the curiosity? In you, it was something completely unexpected. In me, it's more of a gradual process. It just seems it's very different in certain people. What
It
triggers
is, but it is the story of what triggers it is different in each person.
Okay.
But if we go back to the source of what triggers something, we very quickly come back to exactly the same animating force, the same life force that is flowing through Iain to make Iain do Iain things, and is flowing through Wayne to make Wayne do Wayne things.
Well, I'm not sure how to respond to that. That's why I'm not saying anything straight away. So, personality-wise, what happens? What happened to you when you fell off the cliff, personality-wise?
Personality changes according to the change in conditioning. This event of falling off the cliff was something that was part of the change in the conditioning of this organism. And so it was another influence, another thing that happened. But it was one of many things that happens and changes the programming of the organism so that I respond differently. I can't connect a single change in my being to that event. What I can say is that after that event, there was no longer any suffering in this organism. After that, pride no longer arose. Guilt no longer arose. Because there was no longer a sense that I was the author of anything for there to be pride or guilt. Because pride and guilt comes back to the fact I was responsible for that. I made that happen. I shouldn't have done that. I could have done it differently. When that I is gone...
So it's like certain programs in the mind got wiped almost.
You could say that.
Because that's what suffering comes from, isn't it? It's the incessant programs in the mind saying that something should be different.
That's right. And what I give that the name, the false sense of authorship. So I put it under the umbrella. The feeling that I am responsible. I should have done it differently. I should do it this way in the future. And it is that should, that sense of should, that produces the suffering. Because when you already know your own limitations, you say, oh, you point to the fact, oh yeah, I decided I was going to start a business, and I did, and it was successful. Look, you see what I did. But you ignore the 50 other things you said you were going to do, and you didn't do. You only pick out the ones that support your proposition, that you're in charge, and ignore all the times that you had great intentions, made tremendous efforts, and it didn't turn out the way that you intended it to. So you know that from the core of your being, and you've known that since you were 2.5 years old. Even though and that's what we call the terrible twos. Do you have kids?
No, I don't. So what's the terrible twos?
The terrible twos is a time that every parent knows, and it is this period where the child, at roughly the age of 2 to 2.5, suddenly starts throwing fits and tantrums and things.
Okay.
And they become really quite difficult to deal with because the sense of authorship has taken hold, and now they feel as if things should be different. Before, they wanted something, if they didn't get it, they were unhappy. Now, they're unhappy if they don't get it, but it's combined with the frustration of, I'm powerful. I can make things happen. I should be able to get my mommy to come, but she's not coming. The universe is out of order. Which is very different from the simple not getting what you want. But now everything's screwed up.
Yeah.
And there's this discomfort. I should be able to make this happen. I'm powerful. But I can't. And that frustration is what manifests in all kinds of behavior in 2-year-olds until we, as human beings, begin to be able to manage this frustration.
But it still pops out.
Oh, it does throughout our lives.
Yeah.
But the fact is that it's managing a lie. It's managing this fundamental lie that is, of course, supported all through your education. You should do better. You should try harder. You should do this. You should do that. Sometimes you do. And then you're rewarded. You say, you're good. I'm good. Everything's good. But sometimes you don't.